Usually when we talk about high-speed racing techniques,
Hmm.
um, there's this automatic assumption that it's all about extreme risk.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you picture a rider dragging their knee across the asphalt at, I don't know, 150 miles an hour, and it just looks inherently like this crazy high-wire act.
Yeah, it looks terrifying to the average person.
Right. We tend to think that taking a motorcycle to the absolute limit is, well, it's flirting with death, and that everyday commuting is about playing it safe.
I mean, that's the standard narrative, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But diving into the stack of sources you brought for us today for this deep dive, and I'm talking about the professional coaching guides from the Yamaha Champions Riding School, the physics breakdowns from Bennett's Bike Social, and those really raw rider logs from the track day forums. That entire narrative just flips completely upside down.
It really does. It's this fascinating paradox hidden in the physics of riding. Because the mission here isn't just about how to go fast for the sake of it. It's about how to extract the mechanical secrets of high-performance riding so you can actually stay safe.
Which is wild when you really think about it.
It is. The exact same techniques that professional racers use to win championships on a closed circuit are literally the identical techniques everyday street riders need just to survive a Tuesday morning commute.
Okay, and to understand how to actually pull that off, we have to fundamentally rethink how a motorcycle slows down. Like, you have to actively throw away some of the outdated basic training you might have picked up over the years.
Oh, definitely. The beginner courses.
Right, because traditional beginner courses almost always teach you to brake in a straight line, completely release the brake lever, and only then lean the bike into the corner. It's drilled into you as this strict sequential process. Brake, release, turn.
Yeah, which frankly leaves a rider incredibly passive and just vulnerable.
Yes.
Well, professional coaches, especially the ones at the Yamaha Champions Riding School, they universally condemn that sequential method. The true technique, the one that actually utilizes the motorcycle's engineering, is called trail braking.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to a lot of riders listening, touching the front brake while leaned over sounds like basically a guaranteed way to wash out the front tire and crash.
I know, it sounds super counterintuitive, but what's fascinating here is the physical mechanism of trail braking.
Right.
It's the act of trailing off the front brake pressure proportionally as you enter a corner. So you start with 100% braking force while you are still in a straight line.
Okay, makes
But instead of letting go before you turn, you slowly release that pressure. You trail it down to 0% right as you hit the tightest point of the corner, the apex.
And the reason you do this comes down to the physics of grip and geometry. Because when you squeeze that front brake lever, you are initiating a massive weight transfer.
Yeah, it's a mass.
You're shifting hundreds of pounds of motorcycle and rider forward, which physically squishes the front tire into the pavement.
And that squish, honestly, that squish is the secret to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, by compressing the front tire carcass, you are physically flattening the rubber against the asphalt. This dramatically increases the size of its contact patch.
So more rubber on the road.
Right. More rubber physically touching the road equals more mechanical grip. If you use the old method and release the brake completely before you lean, the suspension immediately rebounds.
Oh, I see.
The weight shifts back to the center, that front contact patch shrinks back to its normal size, and you are suddenly asking a much smaller piece of rubber to handle the massive lateral forces of cornering.
Which sounds like a recipe for a washout. But the grip is really only half the story, isn't it? Because braking also dives the front forks down, which entirely changes the steering geometry. Your sources point out that a typical sports bike has about 100 millimeters of trail.
Yeah, we should definitely define trail, because it's just a brilliant piece of physics.
Go for it.
Think of the caster wheels on the front of a shopping cart. The pivot point is slightly ahead of the wheel itself, which forces the wheel to naturally trail behind it.
Like how they always spin to follow the direction you're pushing.
Exactly. That trailing distance is what makes the wheel want to stay straight and stable. A motorcycle works the exact same way.
So when you compress those front forks under hard braking, you are making the steering head angle steeper.
You are.
You are effectively shortening the wheelbase of the motorcycle and reducing that trail. So, I mean, it sounds like the front brake lever isn't just a stopping mechanism. It's actually a secondary steering wheel. You're using it to physically alter the shape and agility of the bike mid-corner.
That is the absolute perfect way to visualize it. A steeper angle and a shorter wheelbase make the bike inherently twitchier, you know? It becomes willing to turn incredibly fast with almost zero physical effort from you.
That's amazing.
But if you let go of the brake before the turn, the forks extend, the wheelbase lengthens back out, and the bike regains all that straight line stability. It naturally wants to run wide. Ah, so that's why people blow corners.
Exactly. That's exactly when you see inexperienced riders panicking. They start aggressively shoving the handlebars, adding these extreme, dangerous lean angles, just to force a stubborn bike to stay on the road.
Because they gave up their steering advantage by letting off the brake too early.
Precisely. You are manipulating the chassis geometry to your advantage, but you have to balance it using what the sources call the 100-point system.
Right, I loved this concept. Imagine your front tire has a bank account of exactly 100 total points of traction to share between two tasks, braking and cornering.
Right, so if you are completely upright in a straight line, you can spend all 100 points on braking. You can grab a handful of brake.
Because you aren't leaning yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the moment you initiate a lean, you have to start spending some of those points on cornering grip. If you lean the bike enough to require 20 points of grip, you must smoothly reduce your braking to 80 points. And as you dive deeper toward the apex, it's this sliding scale. Like at a deep lean angle requiring 90 points of lateral grip, you only have 10 points left for braking.
Exactly. As your lean angle points increase, your braking points must be given away. It's a beautifully smooth, proportional exchange.
But we can't ignore the collateral damage of that physics equation because trail braking is taking hundreds of pounds of moving mass and aggressively shoving it onto the front tire.
Right.
So those same gravitational forces are violently acting on the rider.
Oh, absolutely. They really are.
Which brings us to a massive realization of the material. The motorcycle has a suspension system to handle these forces. But you, as the rider, are sitting on top of it. You are the human suspension.
That's a great way to put it.
And this is where the raw data from those track day forums you brought us becomes incredibly illuminating. Because when you're decelerating hard from high speeds, pulling close to a full G of force, your body is being thrown over the handlebars.
Yeah, and the absolute most common mistake riders make is entirely instinctual. They lock their elbows and brace all their body weight against the handlebars.
Which seems like what you naturally want to do, but the forums highlight this as highly, highly dangerous.
It really is. The handlebars are your delicate steering inputs. A motorcycle at speed is essentially a giant gyroscope. The spinning wheels create gyroscopic stability that actively wants to keep the bike upright and correct small wobbles.
So the bike wants to fix itself.
Exactly. But if you lock your arms and shove all your weight into the bars, you turn your upper body into a rigid brace that fights the bike's self-correcting geometry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you ruin all the tactile road feedback coming up through the forks, and any bump you hit gets translated directly into jerky, unpredictable steering inputs.
So, okay, to carry speed safely, you have to completely isolate your upper body from those braking forces. You have to keep your arms soft and bent.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is what track coaches call the lower body lock. Like you have to anchor yourself to the machine using your legs.
Specifically, you lock your outside leg and knee securely into the contours of the fuel tank. That outside leg becomes your primary anchor point.
You squeeze the tank, you drive your weight down into the foot pegs, and you transfer all that forward-pitching braking force through your core and your legs, bypassing your arms completely.
Right. The Yamaha Champions Riding School actually describes the physical sensation as feeling like you're holding a push-up using your core and back muscles rather than just locking your skeleton.
This raises an important question about the psychology of riding, though. It's one thing to understand the physics of a lower body lock on paper, but, I mean, it's completely counter-evolutionary.
It really is fighting human nature.
Yeah, I have to push back on this a bit. Because if I am flying toward a corner, pulling a massive amount of braking force, my absolute first human survival instinct honed over millions of years is to put my hands out and lock my arms to brace for impact.
Right. Nobody wants to faceplant into the gauges.
Exactly. So how does a rider actually train their brain to fight that instinct and stay soft in such a terrifying high-stress moment?
You are fighting millions of years of evolution, like you said, which is why it requires conscious, deliberate repetition to overwrite.
Just drill it into your head.
Yeah, you look at the coaching logs, and riders literally train this by practicing straight-line braking drills in empty parking lots.
Okay.
They accelerate, brake hard, actively tell themselves to squeeze the tank with their knees, engage their core, and then while braking, they literally flap their elbows like a chicken.
The chicken wing drill, I saw that in the notes. It's so funny.
It is. It looks ridiculous, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
If you can freely flap your elbows up and down under hard braking, it physically proves you aren't putting any structural weight on your hands.
Such a good test.
And eventually, through repetition, that core engagement overwrites the primal urge to brace.
But if your lower body has to be locked that tightly into the tank during the heavy braking zone, that completely dictates your timeline. I mean, when do you actually move your body to lean into the corner?
That is the crucial transition into timing, tension, and what the community hilariously calls the butt transit problem.
Butt transit. It's such a great term because it paints a very clear picture of a very common mistake. Riders wait until the bike is already leaning into the corner and the suspension is fully loaded before they try to slide their hips off the seat to hang off the inside of the bike.
Which is just a catastrophic time to move.
Right.
Think about the physics we just mapped out. The bike is leaned over, the tires are balancing on the edge of their traction points, the suspension is fully compressed, and suddenly you decide to heave 180 pounds of human weight laterally across the chassis.
You completely upset the damping of the suspension. The bike wallows, the weight shifts unpredictably, and you can actually cause the tires to lose traction just by awkwardly clambering around on the seat mid-corner.
Exactly. The correct technique is setting up early. You need to slide one butt cheek off the seat, plant your foot on the inside peg, and shift your head into position while the bike is still completely upright in a straight line.
So long before you ever even touch the brakes.
Yes. You get the butt transit out of the way when the bike is perfectly stable. Then you apply the brakes. Your lower body is already perfectly positioned to lock into the tank. And when it's time to hit the apex, you simply push the handlebar and drop the bike in.
No drama.
No drama, no scrambling.
And setting up early reduces physical tension, which becomes absolutely paramount when conditions get sketchy. Your sources provided some brilliant, honestly counterintuitive data on wet weather riding that highlights this perfectly.
Oh, the rain data is fascinating.
Because everyone assumes that when it rains, the road instantly turns into an ice rink and all physics go out the window.
Right, but Crouch investigators actually measured the coefficient of friction, the scientific measurement of the road's physical grip.
Okay.
A good, dry asphalt road has a coefficient of friction of about 0.7. In the pouring rain, that grip only drops to about 0.5.
Wait, really? It only drops that much?
Yeah.
Which means you only lose about 30% of your total physical grip. The vast majority of the traction is still there. And the mechanics of why that grip remains are fascinating. Modern motorcycle tires use highly advanced silica compounds.
Yep, the chemistry is amazing.
The silica actually creates chemical bonds with the water at a molecular level. It's not just hard rubber hydroplaning on top of a puddle.
Add to that the mechanical grip. Asphalt isn't a smooth sheet of glass, right? It has macro texture, peaks and valleys.
Right.
The water settles into the valleys, but the tire carcass is still squishing down and mechanically interlocking with the peaks of the asphalt. The physical capability of the tire to turn and brake in the wet is astonishing, assuming you're feeding it smooth inputs.
So what does this all mean? If the physical grip is still there and the tires are doing their job, why do so many people crash the second the sky opens up?
That's the million-dollar question.
The data points to the fact that most crashes in the rain aren't a failure of the machine's traction, but a total failure of the rider's preparation timeline.
That is the harsh reality. The primary reason riders crash in the rain isn't the water itself, it is rider panic. A rider gets nervous about the wet road. Because they are nervous, they hesitate.
Ah, I see.
They wait too long to set up their body position. Now they are rushing their butt transit. They grab the brakes abruptly instead of squeezing smoothly, and most destructively, they tense up.
They lock their elbows.
They lock their elbows. And when you are stiff on the bike, any microscopic slip of the tire over a painted line or a puddle, a slip, the bike's gyroscopic stability would normally self-correct in a fraction of a second, is instead transmitted directly up the forks and into your rigid arms.
Because you've bypassed the human suspension.
Exactly. Your stiff arms amplify that tiny twitch into a massive jerky input on the handlebars, causing a total loss of control.
Being loose and relaxed acts as a secondary suspension system. Stiff arms create crashes.
But the sources do carve out one very specific, highly dangerous exception to the wet weather grip rule.
Yes, the first 15 minutes. The infamous first 15 minutes rule. When rain first starts falling after a dry spell, it isn't just water on the road. It mixes with all the engine oil, unburned diesel fuel, and powdered tire rubber that has been baked into the asphalt by traffic.
It creates a genuinely lethal, greasy slurry that lifts right to the surface. It's literally like riding on wet soap.
It sounds awful.
But if you just pull over, grab a coffee under an awning, and wait 15 or 20 minutes, a heavy rain will naturally wash all those oil deposits off the crown of the road and into the gutters.
And then you're left with clean, predictable 0.5 friction asphalt. It's a perfect example of using pure knowledge, rather than raw physical skill, to survive.
Knowledge really is the ultimate safety tool. And knowing when and where to apply these advanced techniques is just as critical as mastering the techniques themselves.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because once you understand how to manipulate the chassis geometry with trail braking, and you've perfected your lower body lock so your arms are soft, and you've dialed in your pre-corner setup, well, you're naturally going to want to test those limits.
Of course you are. It's human nature.
You want to feel the physics actually working. You want to go fast.
And that brings us to the crucial decision of where you actually explore those limits. The sources across the board are unanimous on this point. The public street is a trap.
The Cycle World article you shared included a harrowing real-world story that perfectly illustrates why. A rider on a vintage 1979 Suzuki GS1000 was out carving canyons on a public road, and a faster rider on a modern sport bike passed him.
Yeah, and he let his ego take over.
Exactly, he tried to chase him down.
Which is just a recipe for disaster. We are talking about a heavy, late 70s motorcycle with a steel cradle frame that flexes under pressure. It's riding on narrow bias ply tires with old-school brakes that are incredibly prone to fading.
And he was trying to match the corner entry speed of a modern machine with modern geometry.
Right.
He overcooked a blind corner, ran out of usable road, panicked, and crashed straight into a pile of boulders on the shoulder. He nearly lost his life. And, it wasn't just the limitations of the vintage Suzuki. It was the uncontrollable environment.
That's the key. You can have perfect trail braking technique and flawless body position, but on a public road, you cannot control what is hiding around the next blind bend.
Not at all.
You are dealing with gravel spilled from construction trucks. You have tar snakes, those squiggly strips of rubberized asphalt sealer that melt in the sun and become instantly slick.
Oh, I hate those.
They're the worst. You have cars drifting across the center, double yellow lines while texting, and wildlife running out of the woods.
And we established the physics rule earlier, that speed equals radius. The faster you are moving, the wider the arc your motorcycle naturally wants to carve through a corner.
Exactly.
If you are pushing your speed limits on a public road, you are utilizing 100% of your available radius and 100% of your available tire traction points just to make the turn.
Which leaves you zero safety margin. Nothing. If a car is suddenly halfway in your lane or there's a patch of sand at the apex, you don't have any lean angle points left to tighten your line.
Because you spent them all just going fast.
Right. You don't have any braking points left to scrub speed. You are mathematically out of options.
Trying to master high-speed riding on a twisting public road is like trying to learn a complex, high-energy dance routine in the middle of a crowded, moving subway car.
That is a great analogy.
Right. Like, you might know all the steps perfectly, but someone is going to bump into you, or the train is going to jerk and you're going to fall. The track is your empty dance studio. It's the only place you can actually isolate your technique and focus purely on the mechanics of the machine.
Which is exactly why every professional guide in your stack insists on the closed-circuit solution. If you want to ride fast, you have to take your ego to the racetrack.
It's the only logical place.
Track environments are highly controlled laboratories. Everyone is moving in the exact same direction. There is absolutely no oncoming traffic. The surface is incredibly predictable, engineered for maximum grip, and physically swept clean of debris.
And tracks offer the essential infrastructure you need to actually push your limits without pushing your luck. They have massive engineered runoff zones.
Yes, the gravel traps.
Right. If you're practicing your trail braking and you push the 100-point system a little too far and lose the front end, you slide safely into a wide gravel trap in your leathers. You dust yourself off. On the street, that exact same mistake puts you into a guardrail, a tree, or the grill of an oncoming truck.
Plus, track days give you access to professional coaches. You have experts observing your body position, checking your lower body lock, and giving you objective, real-time feedback to refine your skills.
Which speeds up learning immensely.
Completely. It takes the guesswork out of progression. You aren't relying on luck to survive your learning curve. You are relying on a structured environment.
So it's about being smart, not just brave.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, true mastery of a motorcycle isn't about being the bravest, most reckless person on a mountain road. True mastery is about deeply respecting the machine's physics.
Yeah.
It's understanding that you are not just sitting on a piece of metal, you are piloting a dynamic, shape-shifting machine that responds directly to the laws of motion.
To summarize what we've pulled from the incredible stack of sources you brought us today, real speed and real safety are just two sides of the exact same coin.
Absolutely.
They both come from manipulating the bike's steering geometry using trail braking to make it want to turn. They come from locking your lower body into the tank so your core takes the braking force, keeping your steering inputs relaxed and soft.
Soft arms save lives.
Exactly. They come from preparing your body position long before you reach the braking zone to keep the chassis stable, completely avoiding the dreaded butt transit. And most importantly, they come from restricting your top speed exploration to the racetrack, where you actually have the space and the safety margins to find the limit.
It is a phenomenal collection of knowledge. It entirely shifts a rider's perspective from just twisting the throttle and hoping for the best to actively piloting and managing the gravitational and physical forces at play.
Thank you so much for sharing these incredibly detailed sources with us. It really changes how you look at cornering and how you approach your own safety on two wheels.
My pleasure.
But to leave you, the listener, with something to chew on before your next ride. We spent all this time talking about the entry of the corner. We broke down how trail braking compresses the front forks, physically shortening the bike's shape to help you turn faster and tighter.
Right.
But think about what happens when you finally hit that apex and aggressively roll onto the throttle to exit the corner. If braking pushes the front down, accelerating transfers all that weight straight back. It lifts the front tire and violently squats the rear suspension.
Oh, that changes everything.
How does that massive shape shift impact your steering on the way out of the corner? Keep learning, keep exploring those physics, and stay curious. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.